Yo, what's going on, guys? You got your boy Ace back here again with week 3 of the NPL minors. This week we face TheUzigunner, a very good player. I respect him a lot as a YouTuber as well. We faced him in the finals of the minors tryouts tournament, where unfortunately I hacked him a little bit and then I choked the game away. So I'm definitely looking to get revenge for that. I haven't played him since then, so we'll see if we can do that today. I'll go over his draft real quick. He has Jirachi, Z Dragonite, Mega Diancie, Buzzwole, Tentacool, Rotom Heat, Zoroark, Gourgeist, Piloswine, and Tornadus Incarnate. While I have the normal draft of Megalodios, Azumarill, Lucario, Crocodile, Tangrowth, Darmanitan, Thundurus, Therian with Z-moves, Sneasel, Golbat, and Metagross. So as you can see, the first mon I've chosen to bring is Sugar Berry and Metagross. It deals well with the Dragonite. I can switch it on pretty much any Dragonite variant, live a hit and get off an Ice Punch. I can live a +1 Tectonic Rage from it. I can live 2 normal EQs, I believe. It's also good for Mega Diancie's Earth Power, and it's good for Buzzwole's Earthquake, as well as Piloswine's Earthquake. So Sugar Berry has a lot of uses this week. I definitely expect it to be popped if he damages Metagross at all. Also, my best answer to Scarf Jirachi if he does choose to bring that and lock himself into Iron Head. So that's Metagross for you. I am in an Adamant set because it punches holes in his team really well. Like his switching to Steel moves aren't the best. Well, just his switches in general aren't the best. Like, I have Earthquake for Rachi, Ice Punch for Dragonite, Bullet Punch for Mega Diancie. I don't hit Buzzwole all too well, but, you know, maybe. But I'm, like, not really built to. Like, Metagross doesn't get that much for Buzzwole anyway. Like, Zen Headbutt doesn't do a ton. I can Earthquake, Tentacool. I don't do that much to Rotom, but I have a plan against Rotom, you'll see later. I can Bullet Punch the Zoroark. Kind of walled by Gourgeist, but this mon also, even though it has some decent switch-ins on his team, like I can just set up rocks on a switch-in and, you know, sort of benefit from that too. Like, I have a pretty good matchup against his walls. So next mon I'll go into is one of those wall breakers I was talking about. I have an Adamant, very bulky Azumarill. This Azumarill is meant to take on, as you can see, it's Kebia Berry, which it means it's meant to take on a possible Poison Jab Buzzwole, as well as Sludge Bomb Tentacool, and Sludge Wave Tornadus. If I'm able to surprise live a hit from Buzzwole, I'll be able to get off a ton of damage from Play Rough on it and put it in range of all the priority on my team, whether it's Aqua Jet from Azumarill, Ice Charge from Sneasel, or Bullet Punch from Metagross. So I can neutralize the threat of Buzzwole if he ever loses in on a Azumarill over like 40% of its HP. And then knockoff hits Tentacool pretty hard, which is the reason I'm bringing it, because Tentacool is his best switch into Azumarill and there's not much else I can bring on it. And then finally, we're bringing offensive Megalodios. We've brought bulky Megalodios every week until now, so it's nice to be using the offensive set because it really puts a hurt on Uzi's team. His psychic switch-ins are pretty much nothing, like Zoroark, but then it gets OHKO'd by Dragon Pulse. Jirachi, but Shadow Ball is doing a ton to him if he's not like max Spadef. And then this one's just an incredible win con against him, and doesn't really have much for it. Like, Piloswine can do pretty okay versus it. But I like pressure Tentacool super well if he does choose to bring it to switch into my Azumarill. I can gain momentum off of being able to fire off a nice big Psychic with Megalodios. And then we have a Adamant Life Orb Darmanitan. This is another really good breaker versus his team. This is meant to bait and break the Rotom and the Dragonite. Like, let's say Dragonite switches in and it has its multi-scale, you might think, oh, I could take 2 Banded Flare Blitzes and maybe set up, or go for Earthquake, take me out. Well, I can well, the damage from Adamant Life Orb is the same damage as a low roll from Jolly Band, so you might think I'm Jolly Banded, but then I switch up to Rock Slide on the next move and kill either of those two mons if they choose to stay in. And if they do choose to run speed, I speed tie with max speed Rotom, and I outspeed any Dragonite variant. My next mon is a Scarf Intimidate Crocodile. Intimidate's there pretty much just in case Dragonite gets out of hand and I've wasted Metagross's Shuckaberry pretty early. It's also good for Buzzwole if he's trying to sweep me late. I can Intimidate it and knock off its Scarf. I can also Aerial Ace it if it's in range, but mostly the plan against Buzzwole is to knock off its Scarf and then kill it with Darmanitan or Azumarill or something like that. Well, I guess Azumarill doesn't really care if it's Scarfed, but I'd rather not be Scarfed actually, so it can go for Poison Jab, but that's a set for Crocodile. Pretty self-explanatory. Choice Scarf is really good against him because he is, Jirachi, which is weak to Bolt Stabs, Dragonite weak to Stone Edge, Magenta weak to Earthquake, Buzzwole weak to Aerial Ace, Tentacle weak to Earthquake, Rotom weak to Stone Edge, Zoroark Zoroark gets killed by Earthquake, Gourgeist gets killed by Knockoff. Obviously Piloswine can be an issue, but knocking off that thing's Eviolite is really nice. And Tornadus is weak to Stone Edge, it takes a lot from Knockoff as well. And my last mon is Sneasel. This mon cleans up really well against him. Having Ice Jar priority is really nice versus a lot of his team. If Dragonite gets out of hand and he's not an E-Speed variant, then I can just Ice Shard it and kill it from a very high amount of HP. I have the Iron Tail for Mega Diancie. Also, if he wants to switch Piloswine into this, which it does switch in pretty nicely, I can go for Knockoff and then Iron Tail kills Piloswine on the next turn. So I don't need any special coverage for it like Low Kick or anything. And I have Aerial Ace for the Buzzwole if he's not a Scarf set. Or if I knock the Scarf off and then knock off for General Stab. Also, one thing you'll notice about Uzi's team is it's pretty knockoff weak. Like his Dark Resist are Mega Diancie, Buzzwole, and that's it. Oh yeah, and Zoroark. But the thing about that is, so he has a lot of mons we can knock off. Dragonite, you don't want to switch it in because it gets its multi-scale broken. Buzzwole, you don't want to get knocked off because you want the Scarf to clean late game. Zoroark, you don't want to get knocked off because it breaks the illusion. And then Piloswine, you don't want to get knocked off because it gets off the Eviolite. So it seems really knockoff weak. It's just reliant on its items a ton. So I'm taking full advantage of that by bringing both my dark types and spamming knockoff. Also Azumarill, which has knockoff. So we'll see how that goes. So let's get right into the game. Alright, we're back with the replay. As you can see, he chose not to bring the Dragonite, which is a big relief because D-Dance, Dragon Claw, E-Speed, Roost, or something like that could have put in, well, D-Dance, Dragon Claw, Earthquake, E-Speed could have been putting a ton of work versus me. Although it doesn't really hit Tangrowth, which would be, a switch-in. He would need to be Z-Fly to hit that. Could have put in a lot of work versus a team I actually brought. But he did not choose to bring it, which is nice. Looking at his team, I'm also really relieved he did not bring Mega Diancie because I'm forced to take a lot of damage on either Metagross or Azumarill to be able to check that. And it also takes one Flare Blitz from Darm, so it can sort of threaten me out that way as well. Even though it is fodder for Crook and Sneasel in the late game. So let's get into the match. I decided to lead with Metagross as he leads Buzzwole. Him leading Buzzwole signals to me that he is not a setup variant, which is good to know. But I don't know for sure yet. He could be any variant for all I know. So I'm just going to get at my rocks here. I have Shuckaberry if he wants to go for an EQ. That is what I do as he switches right into Rotom Heat. I get my rocks up. And Megalodios is a really solid switch into Rotom Heat. There's not much Rotom Heat can do to a Megalodios on its normal set. Usually they run, Pain Splitter, Rest. They run Overheat, Volt Switch, Will-O-Wisp, Toxic, whatever. I don't really care about any of those moves on my offensive Mega Latios. I just want to get a big Psychic off versus his team. I'll just go right into Latios, as he actually misses a T-Wave on me, which is huge for him. Well, I wouldn't say it's that huge, because the speed, as you're going to see, the speed only really mattered for outspeeding his Tentacruel and this Rotom. But this Rotom, actually, after the match, he told me that he was an offensive Expert variant with Shadow Ball. So he could have done a ton to me with a Shadow Ball on the following turn if he got this T-Wave off, but instead he's forced to switch out, as a Psychic will do a million to him. So he goes into his Jirachi as I go for a Psychic, and I can tell that and by that damage I can tell that this Jirachi is offensive, likely a Scarfer. So that means I have to switch out instead of being able to 2 a KO with Shadow Ball. If it had revealed like a physically defensive set, or maybe like a bulky set, max HP or something like that, I would have definitely stayed in, gone for the 2 KO with Shadow Ball there. But as likely he gets up his rocks. But I'll have to switch out. So I go right into Metagross, I believe, as he goes for U-turn, and he goes right back into Rotom Heat. Here I don't expect him to go for Thunder Wave again, because he's sort of fearing that I won't make the Lottie. Like, he's fearing that I won't make the Lottie play again, because I've already seen T-Wave, it's been revealed, and against most teams I wouldn't want to get my offensive Lottie T-Wave, but against the team he brought, I realized that having Lottie have all its speed isn't the biggest deal in the world, because Tentacruel's Ice Beam still isn't doing a lot to me, and I still outspeed Piloswine even if I'm T-Waved. And I don't know if he has offensive Shadow Ball yet, so I wouldn't really care about this Mon either way. So I go into Latios here as he goes for an Overheat, so I get that prediction correct. And now I predict him to go into Jirachi, and I fire off a Shadow Ball as he does. He actually goes. Actually, wait, hold on. I got the turns messed up. He goes Piloswine as I go for Psychic. I sort of expected him to not risk Jirachi there, because he's very close to being in Shadow Ball range, and it's risky to, switch it in so many times when, I have a decent switch into it in Metagross, and it's not going to appreciate taking Shadow Ball plus Rocks a bunch of times. So he goes into Piloswine. Obviously Psychic isn't a 2 KO on it. I can tell from that damage that he's Spadef. So I don't want to stay in. I don't want to lose my Latios, because it's such a big offensive threat versus this team, and it comes in versus Rotom and Tentacruel really easily. So I switch it out. I go right into his Azumarill. Not much this Piloswine can do to my Azumarill as he doubles out into his Jirachi. This is fine for me. I don't really care about this Jirachi. Like, the worst thing that could happen is that he Iron Head flinches me down, but if he locks himself into Iron Head, I can just go hard Metagross and get, a big hit off on something. Like, I could maybe predict or do something like that. So I expect him not to go for Iron Head here, as he does in fact just U-turn out, as I go for a very safe knockoff. Again, knockoff super spammable versus Susie's team, as he turns out to be Rocky Helmet, which is fine, because I'm still out of range of Buzzwole's Poison Jab. I'm out of range of everything by a lot, so I'll be fine. I can still take a Hurricane from Tornadus. So I knock off his Rocky Helmet, and now this Tentacruel is super weak. I just bring Latios in here. I can get off another big hit. Here I predict him to keep his Tentacruel around, because he still needs a check for Belly Drum Azu. Because if I Belly Drum at this point in the game, his Buzzwole, if it doesn't have Poison Jab, which I'm assuming it has Poison Jab, but it might be, like, depending on his set, I could Belly Drum and be out of range of Poison Jab, depending on my set. Or if I weaken Buzzwole a little bit, he's gonna die to Aqua Jet, so +6 Aqua Jet. So he's gonna want to keep this Tentacruel around, just because he doesn't know my item yet. So we're gonna want to predict him wanting to keep this Tentacruel around, because I've gone for Psychic so much this game already. I'm gonna go for a Shadow Ball here as he goes into Jirachi. I catch it on the switch and it does a ton to it. I guess for that drop it doesn't matter, he outspeeds me, so it doesn't really matter there, but that's really big for me because it means that Jirachi dies to a lot of moves on my team, dies to like Azumarill, Aqua Jet, which is pretty nice. Here I switch out of Latios, go into Crocodile, I intimidate it, you know, I'm just looking here to go for a knockoff versus his team, but he does U-turn out, which is fine. I knock off this Piloswine here because I'm expecting him to get rocks up, because rocks are really useful versus Darm and Sneasel on my team. And I do get that prediction right, as he does go for rocks. I switch out to Azumarill because I expect Ice Shard, because Ice Shard does a ton to Crook, and I don't want my Crook weakened. So I go into Azumarill, but he does go for the Ice Shard, and I can take this Piloswine out with an Aqua Jet. He's not going to risk Tentacle here. He goes out into Torn to revenge me, and he goes for a bulk up. And my play here is to go for Waterfall, because if he is an offensive Torn, he goes for Sludge Wave and doesn't take me out because of my Kebia Berry. Waterfall plus Aqua Jet puts him in range, and I don't risk Play Rough missing. But he actually goes for bulk up. The thing about bulk up is that Waterfall into Play Rough is still a 2KO at +1. If he decides to set up again, and he's like a Resto Chesto variant, which I think he did reveal to be, that could be a bit of an issue, but what I would have to do in that situation was go into Metagross, predicting him to not really have the best coverage to hit it, since he'll have to be Acrobatics, and then I guess Superpower will be next. I'm not sure if Tornadoes can use Superpower. Anyway, I would have to probably sack something and then go into a Mon like Sneasel or something, because this Azumarill could still really dent this Tornadus even if it gets to +2 and rest up to full. Like, it'll still be like at 50%. So I'm not too scared about bulk up, but it doesn't matter because I crit him, which is really unfortunate for him. At this point, he's missed a T-Wave and got critted, so this match really isn't working out as Uzi planned, unfortunately. I don't think it was the best play for him to try setting up with his Tornadus on an Azumarill, because it's the strongest like physical attacker on my team. In my opinion, he should have tried to set up on a Crook locked into knockoff, or Earthquake, or with a Metagross. Like, setting up on a Azumarill wasn't really the play in my opinion, because even if I went for knockoff and I knocked off his Chesto and he was in a hard spot, and I still have like Ice Shard to revenge in the back, like I don't necessarily agree with that, but it would have, you know, he probably would have netted a kill there on one of my Mons at least if he didn't get crit. So he goes out into Tentacle. I'm Kebia Berry, and knockoff still does a lot for this. I believe, actually no, Play Rough does more than knockoff. 2 Play Roughs kills this thing, but I'm just gonna stay in and get damage off on this. If he wants to make a double, then I catch him on that. So he actually does make a double to Buzzwole, as I send in my Latios. Actually, I was thinking of the wrong turn. I apologize about that. Makes it double the Buzzwole as I send in my Latios, so he does get me on that play. Here, like looking at team matchup, Buzzwole should be Scarfed. Like, setup Buzzwole doesn't really do that much versus the Mega Latios. But just to be sure, I sack Mega Latios to make sure that this Buzzwole is Scarfed, as it takes out Latios. And we see that it is in fact Scarfed, so now I can go back into Azumarill. I live a Leech Life 100%, and I can just go for a safe knockoff, because, or I go for Play Rough, doesn't matter, because doesn't matter, because Play Rough is a 2KO on this Tentacle anyway, and I'm out of range of Sludge Bomb. Play Rough puts Buzzwole in Aqua Jet range, so there's no reason for me to go for knockoff there, and it does comparable damage to Rotom. So here I'm going to go for a knockoff because it's guaranteed to kill this Tentacle, and it doesn't miss like Play Rough does, and I'm out of range of Sludge Bomb. So he actually makes a double to Rotom. So I get that thing with a knockoff, which is really huge. Because now it's in Aqua Jet range, and he does not have a switch into Aqua Jet, really. Like, Buzzwole isn't a switch in, because then I just go for another Play Rough with Kevia. So I get to take out Rotom with an Aqua Jet. So now things are looking really good for Scarf Crook. Because I can Scarf knock off the Buzzwole, and then I don't lose to it in late game. Either that, or I can Scarf EQ and clean up the other two Mons. If Jirachi doesn't flinch me. So he brings out Buzzwole again. I can go, again, I'm Kevia, so I can just go for a Play Rough here. But unfortunately, he crits me, which is pretty scary because everything left on my team is in range of a superpower. Metagross might actually be able to live one, but I don't have anything to hit it. So I go into Crocodile, get the Intimidate off on it, and I go for knockoff here because obviously my play is to knock off Crook's Scarf and then try to win with Darmanitan. So I'm going to go for knockoff as he sacks off his Tentacruel. And then he brings in his Jirachi. My play here is to click knockoff again because even though he's Scarfing, he's going to outspeed me with his Jirachi. If I flinch, then that's fine. He's locked into Iron Head and I can just go Metagross. Very safe. If he doesn't flinch me, then I take out his Jirachi with knockoff, and then I knock off Buzzwole Scarf and it's over. So this game's over at this point. He Iron Heads. I don't flinch. I knock him out with the knockoff. And then he goes into Buzzwole. I go for another knockoff. I knock off his Scarf. He takes me out with a superpower, and then Darmanitan comes in and goes for Flare Blitz and cleans up the game. So, good game to Uzi. I'm really sorry about the hacks. I wish like the sets you had brought had worked out as they intended, because the Tornadus definitely would have netted a kill, and even though and the Rotom successfully getting the para on Latios was pretty big too, because Shadow Ball would have done a lot to me, and I would have been in range of whatever move Tentacruel would go for, and it would be harder to play Lottie as an offensive mon at that point, especially with possible para flinch with Jirachi as well, and full para on Roost. Stuff like that could be really annoying. So I'm sorry about that, but we are 3-0, which is really nice. I believe we are one of 2 undefeated teams. I believe JAR is also undefeated at this point, but JAR is in the other conference, so we're looking really good for playoffs at this point. Well, not playoffs. There are no playoffs in this league. We're looking really good for getting promoted. You have to be top 2 in your conference to get promoted, so we're number 1. So let's gun for number 1 for the rest of the season. Keep going undefeated, and I will see you guys week 4. We play Ethan for week 4. He just took over for David, so we'll see about that. He is a very annoying team to prep for, so we'll see how that goes. Alright, see you next week, guys. Bye.